So 2020 has come to a close, and like with every year, I like to go back and look over all the anime that I watched in 2020 and select what I consider to be the best out of the bunch. Not everyone will agree, people have different opinions, that's why I welcome people to discuss their favorites in the comments section, but this is my kind of condensed list. It's in no particular order other than just we start at winter and we end at fall. These aren't ranked one above the other, it's just what I think was best from each of the seasons, as well shows that carried over, like you had second cores that started last year. I'm only going to be doing second seasons if they started in this year, so just don't get mistaken if things like My Hero Academia aren't on this list. Love those shows, it's just that's how we're doing it for time reasons. Honestly, for a year that had as many delays, production missteps as this one did, I think this is probably the most important 2020 recap I think I've ever done, because it's pretty easy to miss out on a lot of good shows. You think 2020 didn't have many good anime? It did. And one of the most underrated seasons I think I've ever seen while watching seasonal anime for as many years as I have was Winter 2020, a season that at the time of airing, before the world kind of shit the bed, people consider to be a lackluster season, which always made me scratch my head because I thought it was an absolutely fantastic season, and now in hindsight I think people are realizing that winter was something that was taken for granted because looking at spring and summer and how many delays occurred there, you really did take advantage of a season that really had pretty few missteps, all things considered. And what better way to showcase how good winter was is by BOFURI, a show that when you enter any sort of MMO, RPG, virtual reality, the game looks like you're in the real world, but really you're just playing a headset. You think, oh, trapped in a video game, find our way out. No, this is a show that uses that type of technology, but simply says these are kids having fun playing a game, but most importantly, watching a character who has no experience with video games put all of her skills and points into defense, so she walks around with shields and no one can touch her, and as she uses the game mechanics, she gains more and more abilities to the point that she becomes completely overpowered. By having a slice-of-life fantasy show using video game mechanics that traditionally you see in things like Sword Art Online or Log Horizon, but done so in a non-life-threatening way, you get this very interesting, compelling adventure with bubbly characters, gorgeous animation, killer soundtracks, and simply the focus is on fun. Watching how a simple non-gamer breaks a game and how devs try to counter her, it's absolutely thrilling and still stands out as one of 2020's best anime that, yeah, was very popular, but I think with everything that happened in the world, it's very easy to miss out on it and think back and remember that this is a show that we want multiple seasons of. At this point, Haikyuu I don't think needs to be explained to anyone who's gotten to the top at this point in time. But Haikyuu is still one of those shows that many people might skip out on and say, oh, there's a lot of seasons and what makes a volleyball anime so compelling. Haikyuu is literally the only sports anime that has me foaming at the mouth wanting to see the next match, to see the next episode, unsure of where these characters are going to go. When To the Top was airing at multiple points almost every single week, a character from the anime was trending on Twitter globally, because that's how excited it gets the fan base. Even if you have no interest in volleyball, the way the production is done and the way the characters kind of inspire you to want to play volleyball or want to watch people play volleyball. Despite it being animated characters, it gets you so into the sport with a gorgeous presentation, amazing character arcs, and just the revelations and the matches in this season that aired within two separate seasons, obviously winter and then later on in the year with the split core. It just sucks you right in and just provides, once again, Haikyuu at its absolute best. And honestly, I just can't wait to see where Haikyuu can really go from here, because this is a show that's worthy of anyone's time and attention. And if you know me, I don't get up here and promote sports anime all that often. The second season of Isekai Quartet has arrived, and honestly, Isekai Quartet, this is a show that bringing multiple isekai series into a chibi comedy, it doesn't seem like it works on paper, especially with how mature some of those shows are. But the second season just continues to elevate the comedy, and by introducing Shield Hero and the way they kind of mimic Shield Hero and the lack of Shield Hero, and then when they did incorporate him, it just had so much fun and just continued on the momentum that season 1 built. And this is still a show that I think I could easily watch 5 seasons of before I could potentially grow old. I've seen some people say that because there's a lack of real story, it's an issue, but that's the whole point of the show, is that it's a comedy taking story-driven characters and throwing them in the most non-threatening life or death situation. and it just provides for a giant grin on your face. Somali and the Forest Spirit still stands out as one of the most personal and I think gorgeous shows that you can watch. A dying golem meets a human girl, but in this world humans are all but extinct by the looks of it, and the creatures that roam the earth, they talk and interact as any humans would, but they are clearly not human. So you get this story that you know is probably going to end tragically. A golem probably not going to be able to live with this girl that considers him father forever, but you hope they'll reach some sort of satisfactory ending. The journeys they make along the way with this gorgeous, just the world sucks you in. They had a painter come in to do the backgrounds that's never worked in anime before, and it shows in the quality. It's a show that whether you like father-daughter stories or you like mythical stories, these magical series, it sucks you in so much and gives you this very interesting father-daughter duo that honestly is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And something that I still think is one of 2020's absolute best, and I'd go as far to say is within its top 10 best if I'm being completely honest. You had Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, which is one of the weirdest names, and honestly, when you read a name like that, you think, oh, how is a ghost haunting a toilet going to be anything all that interesting? But with its very interesting presentation and unique comedy design, you get this interesting show where a girl makes a wish wanting love, but then because of that wish gets roped into these spiritual shenanigans that honestly gets quite dark and twisted the longer you go on. And rather than keeping the main character Hanako as this kind of like troll-like ghost, you get some pretty personal moments along the way that really does shape it into being something that's honestly worthy of a lot of people's attention. It's easy to forget about a lot of the hidden gems and bangers that Winter had, but from Somali to Hanako, it just really does bring a giant grin to your face when you see something that's so compelling that has you still wanting a second season even months after its release, when generally you forget about these shows within a month's time. ID Invaded is absolutely phenomenal. It's an original show that uses this type of technology that allows you to go into a criminal's mind to uncover crimes, and using those pieces that you form along the way where each person's well, which is their internal thought process and mind, is completely different and unique. You get these episodic worlds that really just knock your socks off. I mean, when you look at its first episode, you just kind of understand that it's going to go absolutely insane from there. But when you get the deeper conspiracy, while the endgame boss isn't the most shocking thing ever, the way the puzzle pieces fall together does provide for a pretty compelling journey that isn't that straightforward to be able to figure out outside of who the big baddie is at the end of the day. This show I've rewatched 2 times since its finish, and each time I either like it the exact same or I find something new to appreciate about it. This is one of the most interesting detective series out there, and honestly, I'd say is one of the most striking visually that 2020 has to offer. Dorohedoro was kind of, I think, the first time MAPPA really got into the spotlight for doing something really, really different visually. It's a show that is strikingly different, it's bold, it's creative, and while it may not be for everyone, I think most people who even check it out and don't get something out of it can appreciate the stylistic difference that MAPPA brought to the table and adapting a very dark and gritty world that I think honestly everyone should give a shot to, which honestly probably everyone has given a shot to with how easily accessible it is on things like Netflix at this point in time. I can't meet many non-anime fans that I know who haven't at the very least checked out an episode or two, and I think a lot of people will get a kick out of this one. Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken is Masaki Yusa's latest work that takes the mind of a creator as you have these 3 girls wanting to create anime in their school club, and by using the idea of watching things unfold where you start sketchbook wise to then you seeing it in rough animation, watching their projects come to life, it feels as if it's young, talented animators who have natural talent, who have natural abilities to make anime, but it's done with professional hands drawing everything. On a visual level alone, this is worth everyone's time and attention, but the character arcs and their individual personalities, you just feel for them, and it makes you inspired to follow your dreams and craft your own visions, whether that is anime, whether that is manga, whether it's creating a video game, or whether it's making videos online. It inspires you, and that childlike innocence has never been more beautiful than in this show. It is absolutely a 10 out of 10 if I'm being completely honest. Magia Record will not be for everyone as well. This is not Madoka Magica. It may be set in the Maha Shoujo Madoka Magica world, but it is different. It's a show that puts the focus more on the characters, and it gives it a lot more slice of life time rather than just watching characters die left and right. And while that may not be for everyone, when you really do get into the more cursed episodes where you get to see these personal stories and once again the beautiful presentation with its art design really sucking you in this arts and crafts world, I think it's a worthy successor to the show that so many people know and love. It didn't try to be Madoka Magica, it tried to be Magia Record, and for that, I think it's worthy of a lot of people's attention. Just, I wouldn't recommend jumping into this unless you've seen the original anime first. Now, spring is where the year started to get a little iffy and things started getting delayed, but Tower of God remained consistent through and through. The webtoon trilogy that aired in 2020 is not going to be for everyone, and the only one I'm going to be discussing is Tower of God because it's the one that clicked the most for me. People criticize its visuals. I found the visuals to be completely different, and I thought was the great way to debut webtoons, something that feels anime, but obviously visually distinct and has its own coat of paint and its own charm to it. The characters were pretty amazing, and watching a character try to climb a tower and search for a girl who has a character arc that is sure to rile the anime fandom. I think this is a show that what it did for me was very similar to shows like Hunter x Hunter, where I wanted to watch hundreds of episodes of this beauty. The only issue with this is that there's only 13 or so episodes as we wait for hopefully more. But Tower of God I definitely think is worthy of some hype, and hopefully more people will continue to jump aboard this and we can see more anime in the future. Kaguya-sama Love is War debuted its second season, and the first season was one of my favorite rom-coms of all time, and the second season kept that formula. At times it wasn't quite as funny, but the thing that made this one stand out and even be a step above its first is the fact that it didn't play by the traditional rule set of sequels and improved on an already perfect formula by giving all their characters even more time to shine and get these pretty emotional backstories. This is a show that is hilarious, it has some of the best comedy formula I've ever seen, but it actually has its time to go dramatic. Generally in these types of shows you don't get those drama moments because people want the fun, people want the bouncy, but here, the drama is what makes their comedy all the better to see where they once were and to see where they now are. Kaguya-sama is a show that above all others that I recommend, if you haven't seen it, to stop whatever you're doing and go watch it, because it just gets better from here. Otome Game was a very fascinating one by taking a character who dies and is kind of revived in a game, or a mythical world, a mystical world. You've seen that before, but by putting her as the villainess of a game, that every single route is going to lead to her doom, whether exile or death, it provides for a very fun dynamic when your character is as dense as a doorknob, but honestly is so foolish that she doesn't realize that whatever doom flags were there are long gone because she's just a nice person, as she still tries to avoid those doom flags. Every character falls in love with her, male or female alike. She is a black hole, but it is such a great show that made me laugh more times than I can count. Kakushigoto is the second show that had a father-daughter duo that really just struck a chord with me. I'm not the biggest fan of these types of shows, but like with Somali and the Forest Spirit, this one did a lewd manga author with a daughter. This time, without going creepy like we've seen in past works, this one is a guy who honestly, he has a job, he likes his job, but he wants to keep his daughter Hime as precious as can be so she doesn't see his dirty jokes. Over each episode, you get this sort of build up to thinking something bad has happened to the father, and it's not until the final episode you know what that is. This is a hilarious show, it's a heartwarming show, it's very slapstick comedy, but it has one of the most satisfying payoffs that feels open and closed that you don't really need to see more, and you're completely satisfied with what it was able to accomplish. Watch this one, it's beautiful, it's hilarious, and honestly, it has its fair share of drama that works exceptionally well. Balance Unlimited isn't going to be a show everyone will put in their favorites list, but if you want to see the epitome of cool, this show right here, having a guy with unlimited money that can solve any crime with a touch of his finger, as you have another character wanting to follow the law and play by the rules, you get a pretty compelling adventure that, though I do think it needs more slice of life style episodes, the actual story and plot is very conclusive and well developed. It's just, it would have served a good purpose to have a few more episodes of downtime before getting into that more serious subject matter, but the show's absolutely phenomenal. Brand New Animal is another show that I think is worthy of a lot of people's attention. The anthropomorphic designs that you are now starting to see more and more of thanks to Beastars, it's something that you are now more interested in, or at least I know I am, and watching a show that has a very compelling adventure, it feels different, it feels like Trigger had a lot of fun with its visuals, and you get a lot of references to their past works, and it really does bring a giant grin to your face. But it's a story that doesn't feel like it's just doing another, here's discrimination and we're using animals and humans. It has a pretty interesting character arc that goes through different types of perspectives and ideas that you don't really feel yourself comparing it to what came before like Beastars, but feeling like it's Brand New Animal. It's bubbly, it's colorful, it's pretty dark, but it has a really solid story that I wouldn't mind seeing more if they ever decide to do a second season, if I'm being completely honest. You have a sense of a bookworm just continuing on such an interesting isekai formula rather than going explosive end of the world. You're watching a girl just wanting to continue to find ways to read books as her lifespan is clicking down. It's something that feels boring on paper, but the more you watch, the more you're interested in its world, and I can't say many people will find this boring if they give it an honest-to-go shot. Just honestly, this is one of the best isekais that's ever been made. I think that's all you really need to know. Fruits Basket continues with its second season, continuing to get better, as many of these sequels are. Absolutely incredible stuff, I have to say. I am loving this show, and I am so excited for its final season. I don't need to gush more about Fruits Basket than I already have on this channel. Just go watch Fruits Basket. And because this video is going to be a little longer, I'm going to say this is part 1. We'll do part 2, which will obviously be summer and fall. We will be back next week for the conclusion of what is the best 2020 anime that I watched over the past year. So let me know some of your favorites from obviously winter and spring, and stay tuned for part 2 in the near future.